Hi everyone, it's Sarah and I. We're back together. We're together all week. And today is Wednesday, and we're talking about the semen analysis. 101, I'm sorry. A step-by-step what the report means. You know what, Sarah? What does it mean? Because you know what? You get so caught up on numbers, right? I remember when I was in my fertility journey, it was the numbers. Did the numbers go up? Did the numbers go down? Or is this one too high? Is that one too low? And so what is it? Tell us.
So many, there's so many numbers, and the reports are not very clear. I've probably looked at, I don't know, at this point, I've probably looked at about 1,000 semen analysis reports or more. And from all over the world, because on Don't Cook Your Balls, so I have a article that says, understanding your semen analysis, and guys will come on there and they'll post their semen analysis results. So they'll just post their results, and I walk through and kind of explain them. And different labs have different ways of reporting these numbers. Some of them have many more numbers than others. What do they even mean? They're very confusing, and what number is important, and does it mean anything, and am I fertile? And I've seen that some doctors don't explain it very much. So they just say, yeah, this looks good. And that's like, okay, I'm supposed to be okay with that.
I think what is so amazing about your site is that, I just want to back up a minute. On Don't Cook Your Balls, they can post their analysis, and then you help interpret it. Because you know what? You know me. I'm the emotional girl, and you're the science lady. When you're in that meeting and you're getting the results, maybe they did tell you, but you're having such a hard time processing what's going on that people need to know. They can log on to Don't Cook Your Balls, share their analysis with you, and you thoughtfully respond. So, and then you have behind you all the experience of all these other analysis from all over the world. So that is just such an amazing service.
And in our app also, there's a, because I've been, I get a lot of them. And so, sometimes I get 50 of them in a day. It's like, that's a lot of semen analysis to report on. So I kind of wrote a guide in our app so that if you plug in your numbers, you download our app, that if you go to, search in the Google Store or on in iOS or Apple's app iTunes, you can download the Track Fertility app. And in there, if you enter your semen analysis results, you can enter your sperm count, your morphology, your motility, your volume, etc. All the numbers that you get on your report. I have a full detailed report where I've written, done a lot of math and done a lot of things to make custom things. So it'll give you a really good custom report about what your semen analysis says. So those are two ways. You can either come on Don't Cook Your Balls and post a comment on the Understanding Your Semen Analysis page, or you can go and look on the Track Fertility app, plug it in, and you'll get like an automatic kind of personalized report. But I want to walk through the numbers. So the big headline number is sperm count. And even sperm count, for the love of God, is like a confusing number. So sperm count is the number of sperm that you have. It's reported in a couple of different ways. So sperm, the way it's measured in the lab is sperm concentration. Sperm concentration is, if you were to think about, if you had a giant gallon, like say your sample was like a gallon, right? And you scooped out, you would say like, how many sperm are in this cup? Not how many are in the whole gallon or the whole swimming pool, just how many are in this cup. So they report it in millions of cells per milliliter. And so in each milliliter of semen, so you get a volume. Your volume is like typically around between 2 and 4 milliliters. Some guys have a little bit of a lower volume, so you'll be like in 1 milliliter. So that's how much semen you make. And then they do a sperm concentration, which is how many million cells in each milliliter. So let's say for simplicity, it's 10 million cells per milliliter, and you have a 3 milliliter sample. That means that you have 30 million sperm cells total, right?
Right.
So it actually matters because, you know, most of the time we're looking at the headline number, the sperm concentration.
Right. Right.
Which, you know, so you say a sperm concentration of 10 is kind of low, 10 million per milliliter. But if you have 5 or 10 milliliters of volume, you're diluting your semen,
Right.
is diluting your sperm cells. So actually a 10 million per mill isn't that low because you actually have 50 million total or 100 million total sperm in the whole sample. So total sperm count is multiplying your sperm concentration by your semen volume to get the total number of sperm cells. And the total number is what's kind of what matters, because that's the total number that are going into your, you know, into your partner. So the concentration matters less. You know, it can be inverse. You could have like a higher concentration, let's say 50 million per milliliter, which would be seem kind of high. But if you only have half a milliliter,
Right.
you actually only have 25 million.
Right.
So you have to divide it because you don't even have a full milliliter of volume. So it becomes tricky, and why it's kind of complicated to read a semen analysis is because the numbers relate to each other. And you know, you can't just look and go, is this number good, this number good, this number good, this number good? It's not that simple. So that's the first number, is the sperm count. The next kind of big thing that people look at is motility.
Right.
And that is the ability of the sperm to swim. And motility is very subjective. So just to get it out there, semen analysis itself is an art as much as it is a science. In most labs, the way that they're doing a semen analysis is they're literally taking a drop of your semen, putting it on a microscope slide, and counting the sperm cells that they see and saying, that one's swimming, that one's not, that one's swimming, that one's not. And sometimes, you know, they have to make a call. It's kind of twitching its tail. Is it swimming? Is it not swimming? And so, you know, the results, if you had two different technicians take the same sample and do it at the same time, you can get slightly different sperm count, slightly different sperm motility, even from the same sample at the same time. So it's important to know that, like, if you get a number in your semen analysis, you can't just say it's really 10. It's actually kind of maybe 8 to 12.
Right.
So give yourself a little bit of a bracket on your numbers. And this is especially important if you're trying to track your sperm count over time, because, you know, if you see, okay, it's 10 and it was 11 last time, oh, it's gone down by 1. That's not a bit, like, that's not really
Right.
a big difference. That's within the same range. And now if it was 10 last time and it's 25 or 3, now those are big differences, right? So that's what, when you're looking at trends, you want to look at bigger differences. So back to motility. So the motility, the way that they judge it is they'll look, the technician will look through the microscope and they'll see the sperm swimming, and they'll judge them. They'll put them into some grades typically. Progressively motile, it's swimming, and it's swimming straight, and it's swimming fast, and it looks like it's got a mission, it's got a purpose. Then there are sperm that kind of, they're like this, they're just, and they swim like that. So that's kind of like motile, but not super progressive. And then there's like non-progressive motile, and they swim kind of like this, and they just swim in a circle, or they're twitching, but they're not moving.
No, it's so amazing to see that. I mean, I think, you know, in part of my journey that was the moment that we found out, and it was seeing that, you know, seeing that there was just one little guy swimming with a purpose and the other guys were just kind of milling around, you know. And so it's so amazing, Sara, though, when you think about what the body is unconsciously doing. You know, a man's body is consciously making sperm, like we breathe. You know, they're making sperm, and some of them are good swimmers, and some of them aren't that much. And so that is so easily understood. How I wish you told me this 20 years ago.
So these, so what happens to the sperm? Why do some of them swim well and why do some of them not swim so well? There's a couple of reasons for why sperm swim well and why they don't. First, their health. Like a sperm itself is a living creature. It is a living cell. And so it has to be healthy in order to swim. If it's not healthy or fully developed, it's not going to swim or it's not going to swim right. And so if there's very low motility in a sample, so let's say the motility, they report it typically as a percentage. So what they'll do is they'll count 100 sperm. Say 10 of them were moving fast, 20 of them were moving kind of slow, and then half of them weren't moving at all. So they'll break it down typically, and either they're going to report it to you as like percent modal, which percent modal means the percent of them that were moving. So usually in an average healthy man, it's 50% motility. So in an average healthy man, 50% of the sperm are not swimming. And that's because sperm have a life cycle.
Right.
They are made, they live, they die. And, you're kind of ejaculating on a regular basis. And some of those sperm are like kind of old man sperm. They've already lived their life and they're on their way out when they come out of the body.
Right.
And some of them are young, vigorous, like teenage sperm, and they're like super excited. And that's those ones that are like moving super fast. And so those are sperm going through their sperm little life cycles. And so it's very common and normal to see about 50% motility because that's just life, right? That's just the sperm going through their normal life cycle. Now, if you don't ejaculate for a while, what's going on is that you got these sperm, they're hanging out inside of you, and there's a whole bunch of them that are going through their life cycle inside your body. And so if let's say you haven't ejaculated for 2 weeks, well, your motility is going to be crap. It's going to be like 90% of them are dead because they're all it was just a whole bunch of sperm that turned into old man sperm and died inside before they ever got out of the body. And the same thing, if you're ejaculating very frequently, you're not giving those sperm a chance to finish, so you got a lot of like 11-year-old sperm who aren't quite fast enough yet.
Right.
They're a little bit immature and they're making it into your sample. And so you have, you've already ejaculated and you have cleaned out your system. So you have just a few really young, immature sperm, and they also might not be swimming very fast or the right way. So ejaculation actually really matters for a semen analysis.
Right. So when do you hear scientifically, because I remember way back when, when is it, like 2 days before you have this? What is it?
Right. So you should abstain for at least 2 days. If it's not like if it's 1 day, it's really going to be too little. I mean, if it's the same day, don't have sex the same day.
Yeah. No. Isn't it like 2 days or 2 to 3 days prior? You should
3 days. Long and it's probably good till about 7 days is what they recommend. So if it's been longer than 7 days, you need to like relieve yourself and wait again for the 2 days so that you're really in this sweet spot of 2 to 7 days of abstinence to get a really good picture of what your normal healthy sperm in the middle of their life cycle looks like, right? So your motility is particularly going to be off if you don't have, and so is count, actually. Count and motility will both be a little bit wonky if you don't abstain for the right amount of time.
So Sara, is it fair to say your first semen analysis is really like a semen selfie? That you're just really taking a snapshot of your semen that day and it's giving you data? And I know in our situation, and also, it's really recommended to have another semen analysis because isn't it just taking a selfie of that, 3 months ago today, right?
Right, exactly. So that's another point. The semen analysis and sperm in general are they fluctuate over time. Not only abstinence, but like how hydrated you are, Did how healthy are you feeling? Did you get a good night's sleep? All those kinds of things do impact your semen quality in a given day. And like I said, technician to technician, the same sample, they're going to get different results. So if you're going to be making some heavy decisions on a semen analysis, based on the semen analysis, particularly if you're considering getting, additional treatment based on the semen analysis result, I would recommend that you get it done at least twice, and that semen analysis should be done, a little bit apart from each other, a couple weeks, because you really want to see yourself at a couple of different time points to really say, yes, this is my baseline. And I would tell people, average the two results. So if I had my first semen analysis and my sperm count was 20, and my second semen analysis, my sperm count was 30, well, really, you average it and you say your sperm count's about 25 as a baseline. And that gives you a kind of a good starting point to say it's around this level. And if you're going to take steps to try to improve that semen analysis, you really need to do it like 3 months later, and see, have you moved from baseline? So I would say, like my recommendation would be to test of every 2 to 3 or even 4 months, and see. And that's a long time. That's kind of one crappy thing about sperm. Is you're trying to get pregnant. That 3 months is that's a really long time to try to wait. So you can do it more frequently, but you have to recognize that the incremental changes are going to be slow. That's just kind of the natural the way of sperm.
So Sarah, if you get an analysis after you sharing all that 101 with us, if you get one and you're like, the mobility is not good, the volume is not good, that you're looking at numbers and they're saying, ooh, there might be a problem, slowing it down and waiting and having a recheck is advisable, because of what you just said. What you're seeing today isn't necessarily what you're presenting today.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I would also say that you should kind of look at semen analysis into kind of bins. So if you're below 10, if you're in the single digits, that's something is going on with your body.
Right.
And warrants you to go talk to a urologist and get further testing. I would get another semen analysis done with the urologist, but I would also make sure that you get a comprehensive workup, get your blood tests done, get your hormone levels done, because if your sperm is that low, there's something that could be really going on with your health. Now, from 10 to maybe 30-ish, and depending on the clinic, a lot of clinics have a cutoff of 15 or 20, and they'll say, under 20, your chances aren't that good, or under 15, your chances aren't that good. So if you're let's say you're 10, 11, 9, or 12, something in that range, a lot of times sperm counts in that range are low. They could be low either due to lifestyle situations. So a lot of the cases in that range are, too much, not the right diet, or too much whatever. So in that range, you could say, let's take another semen analysis and see, do I stay in that range, or do I measure higher or lower, and do I need to do stuff? That's a take steps kind of range. And then there's a range up to about 55. So in our track prop, we actually measure sperm count up to 55, because even though the fertility clinics aren't going to tell you, you can conceive faster. If your sperm count's 40, you can conceive faster if it was above 50, if it was above 60. The higher your sperm count goes, actually, the better your chances are. And so even though you're not clinically low, you're not optimal. You're not ideal.
Right.
And so, it's a big, wide range here, because the high sperm counts are all the way up. Guys can get up to 400 million sperm per milliliter, and in their whole sample, we're looking at over 1 billion sperm some men make. Like, so, you know, it's a really big range. Luckily, you don't have to be on that super high end
Right.
to optimize your chances. We're looking at something like 100 million or 150 million in the whole sample as kind of like optimal. So anything above that, 200, 300, 400, 500, all of that, those are like excessive numbers of sperm. But you do want to look and say, am I kind of on the lowish side? And you should still take steps to try to improve. If you have no sperm, don't give up hope.
Right.
So that's another one where the semen analysis might show that you have no sperm at all, and that can be devastating. It could be that they didn't see the sperm on the semen analysis. So there could have been sperm in the sample, but they just didn't find them. There were too few to see. There also could be, you know, other kinds of issues. So definitely in the case of no sperm,
Right.
Don't just give up. Go through the evaluations, get a second semen analysis, and again, go see a urologist, get your blood work done. Typically, they'll do genetic testing and hormone testing, and that will give you a good picture of what's going on. Do you really have no sperm, or do you just have very low sperm? And is there a reason for it? Because no sperm, there's hope. Something can be done.
Yes.
If there's something, right? You just need one. And modern medicine is a miracle. It's an amazing thing. So I would just definitely say don't be discouraged with the first semen analysis results if it shows nothing. I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but I do want to touch on a few more parameters that are measured in a semen analysis, because these are the ones that kind of freak people out. Morphology. Morphology forever is like, what in the world is this? Weird looking sperm or normal shaped sperm or abnormal sperm.
Right.
Why do I have abnormal sperm? First of all, like, it's kind of like a dog show for sperm. So measuring morphology is like measuring your sperm against the optimal specimen of a sperm. They take the pristine, perfect
Purebred,
perfect sperm, and they look at each one of your sperm, and what they do to do a morphology assessment is they freeze all the sperm, they kill them, they dye them a color, and then they look at them, and they literally zoom in on a super high powered microscope, and they compare all the features of each sperm. So again, they're going to do 100 sperm. They're going to look at each one of these 100 sperm, and they're going to look at their shape of their heads. They're going to look at the shape of their tails. They're going to look at the shape of their bodies, and they're going to make a determination, does it meet the criteria of normal or abnormal? And there are lots of different measurement and criteria that people use, which make this it's very subjective and very difficult to understand.
So Sarah, when they're saying normal, do they mean like the purebred normal that has
so you whatever you get as percent normal morphology is perfect purebred beautiful sperm, right? They're the right size, they're the right shape, everything is perfect about them. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Most sperm have something wrong with them, and it doesn't mean that they can't make a baby. So if a sperm has a problem, so there's 3 pieces of a sperm. There's a head, there's a neck, there's a tail. The head's job is to fertilize the egg. The neck's job is to provide energy for the sperm to swim. And the tail's job is to actually do the swimming. And, you know, if a defect is so severe, let's say that the tail is bent at a 90-degree angle, that tail can't swim because it's it's like this. So actually, this is the defect I was talking about during that chat we had. Smokers have a known defect of their tails hook. So if you smoke a lot, your sperm have hooked tails and they can't swim. So when you look at a smoker semen analysis, typically you see that their morphology is really bad, and also the motility is down. Why? Because they have hooked tails, they can't swim.
What what about, is there any study or any information about excess alcohol and what that does to a sperm shape?
Yeah, alcohol will do a lot of things. It will prevent the body from even making sperm. It causes certain kinds of head defects. There's lots of things that alcohol is bad. It's a toxin for sperm. Luckily, it's kind of a short-lived thing. So alcohol goes through your body, your liver absorbs it and gets it out of your system. But the other interesting thing about that is that while your liver is absorbing and dealing with alcohol, your liver can't do its other functions. What the liver is supposed to do is break down your vitamins. So when you eat food, that food goes into your liver, and your liver breaks it down. So vitamin, it's well known that folic acid is important for women, right? Folic acid is an amino acid that is actually used as a building block of DNA. It is actually part of your DNA. You cannot make new DNA without having some of the things that are in folic acid. Your liver breaks down the folic acid molecule into the molecules that make DNA and sends it out to your body so that your body has these molecules available to make DNA. So if you're drinking a lot, and this is like really like binge drinking or regular drinking, your liver is occupied breaking down and dealing with alcohol, clearing it out of your system. Your liver is not going to spend the time breaking down the folic acid, which means that you have less available components for your DNA, which means that your sperm end up getting incomplete DNA, because what cell are you making more than any other? You're making more sperm than any other cell in your body. You're making red blood cells, white blood cells, and sperm all the time. That's what your body is doing. So when you don't have
that red, white, and sperm all the time.
I mean, the rest of your cells, your skin will turn over kind of on a regular basis. Your muscle cells will turn over on kind of a regular basis, but they kind of live for a longer time and they die, and it takes a longer time to replace those. But every day you're replacing your blood, and every day you're replacing your sperm. So these are really, like, you look at people have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you have cancer? Your blood cell counts go down, your sperm counts would go down, you lose your hair. Those are the things that your body is doing on a regular basis. So those fast dividing cells really get targeted by cancer drugs. And so you can see which cells in your body really are. Oh, and the lining of your stomach. That's why people get nauseous. So
Sarah, so you gave such amazing information, because the shape of the sperm, the 3 parts of the sperm, if you're a smoker, have that image in your mind. If you're a smoker, instead of the middle finger, it's the end of the tail going up. Like, literally, imagine that in your mind every time you smoke. If you're trying to create a baby, that you're creating hook sperm. And then alcohol, like when you take that in your body, when you take a drink or when you take a smoke, and I know it's very challenging to stop or cut down, but that image in your mind, you're going to have a hook tail sperm. And what about sperm that have 2 tails? Is that correlated with any substance abuse?
It's not correlated with a particular substance that I know of, but it is a defect that is known. Some sperm can have 2 heads, 2 tails, there's all kinds of giant head sperm. There's all kinds of kind of weird defects that sperm can get compared to the kind of the purebred. What's interesting to note is that normal morphology is that 95% of your sperm are going to be abnormal. So you're still normal. If 95% of your sperm look weird, they're still in the normal range of, so it's not expected that you're going to have a lot of perfect sperm. So when you're looking at a morphology, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, because it can be scary. You're like, oh my God, like 75% of my sperm are abnormal. Actually, that's a really great number. If you have 25% normal sperm, you're actually on the high end of normal. So don't be frightened by the morphology number. A lot of people get really concerned about it. But it can be a flag if you have consistent like 1 or 2% normal or 0% normal. It means that your body isn't developing those sperm in the normal way, and something's systematically causing them. You particularly want to look at what types of defects they are. Are they all the same defects? Because sometimes you can have a genetic or a kind of a lifestyle cause that will cause a certain type of defect in the sperm, and then you can target that. Sometimes, a lot of the time, most of the time, the defects are all over the place. The other thing to note is that like morphology issues are pretty important when it comes to reproductive, assisted reproduction success rate.
Yes.
So IVF particularly is susceptible because what happens is you have all these abnormal sperm getting in the way of the normal sperm.
Right.
And so you're getting lower fertilization rates, especially when you have high head defects. So the head, shape of the head matters. And if the sperm doesn't have a good head to be able to penetrate an egg, it's not going to fertilize it. So that matters, but like when, you have to take it with a grain of salt. So I just say don't freak out about it, but also don't ignore it completely. Like, it has its place. The other interesting number that people kind of freak out is about white blood cells. And this is just a really quick thing, that there are white blood cells in your semen. Sorry.
Where are you, Sarah?
My plug ran out of my computer and I was going to run out of batteries. There are white blood cells in your semen. That's normal. Everybody has them. Like, it's a way for so white blood cells are part of your immune system. And what they do is they attack germs, right? So you have white blood cells, you get a cut. Those white blood cells are going to go eat the bacteria and keep you safe. In your semen, it should be pretty much not that many, right? Like just a few patrol officers to make sure that things stay clean, right? If you have a high number of white blood cells, there's something going on.
Right. So you could have had a virus or a cold or something.
You could have had a cold. A lot of men end up having undetectable kind of infections.
Or urinary tract infection, or
urinary tract, prostate infection, infection of the epididymis, and a lot of these infections don't have symptoms, so they don't feel any pain in their testicle or in their in their reproductive area, but they could have like a minor infection there. And so if you see that you have white blood cells, it's useful to talk to a doctor. Not always is it an infection. Sometimes it's just like recent surgery will do it. Or if you had like a general, like a cold or something, you could end up with white blood cells there. But it is useful, like especially if the number is high, to get it checked out, because you could have some kind of infection which could be impacting other things. So that's another one where, typically it's very, very low. But if you see a number that's like elevated, and a few is okay. So if you have like 1 million per mil, that's okay. If you have 30 million per mil, make sure you talk to a urologist about it, because some doctors or some places where you're going to get a semen analysis aren't going to be totally aware of the men's health issues related to it. And this is why all the urologists are really thumping on the idea that you need to get seen by a urologist, because they understand your reproductive health. So that's semen analysis, I guess, in a nutshell. There's a few other factors like pH and viscosity and liquefaction and blah, blah, blah. I would just say to these, you can check out the Don't Cook Your Balls website
and reach out to you and share it with you. But
yeah, I'm okay talking about the viscosity of your semen. I do it every day. So,
you're okay with that, and I love you for it.
Really okay with it. It's a short, those kind of parameters go all over the place. And typically there's nothing to worry about there unless somebody really flags it on your semen analysis and says this is a problem. I don't even know why they really report them, because they're just kind of they vary a lot from man to man, and they vary a lot from a single man on multiple semen analysis. One day he might be not viscous, the next day he might be very viscous. It's like kind of like what you ate and what you drank and how hydrated you are and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's just interesting to note as a trend. If you're always highly viscous and etc., then there could be something to that. That could be, you know, contributing. But typically those factors are not a big deal. You know, really what you want to look at is your, you know, your total. If you wanted to get one measure, one number from a semen analysis and say this is what matters, it's your total motile sperm count. So you go and you
total motile. That's all we really care about is the total motile.
The total number of sperm cells that can make the mission, right? So you have your concentration. You're going to multiply that by your volume, and then you're going to multiply that by your percent motile. And if you know, so if let's say you have
your total motile.
That's right. So if you had 10 million and you had 5 mils, that's 50 million. And you had 50% motility, that's 25 million. So your total motile is 25 million. That's the number that you care about. That's the number that you want to track over time and see how it's doing. You know, and then just kind of note, is the morphology, how's it, like use it like a gauge, like is it okay or is it not okay? Like, but mostly, you know, you really want to know what that total motile, and if you get progressive motile, that's even better, because that's the number that are swimming in a straight line. That's the ones that are going to go find the egg, right?
Total motile.
And, you know, any changes that you make in your life are going to impact the sperm health and the sperm count. And so, you know, you're.
Well, I think if to circle back what you just said, you know, women take the folic acid. It would be super duper if men would take that too. And, you know, and talk about, you know, one little change, you know, take the vitamin, take the supplement, stop smoking.
Yep. There's some very, very simple things you can do. And like I said, you know, the Track app has the semen analysis report, and it also has a comprehensive personalized recommendation tips for you. So if you enter what you're doing in your life right now, it will tell you, here's what you need to do to help improve.
I love that, Sarah, because it's so overwhelming. And if you're listening with this and you're having a difficult time conceiving, you know, that emotional component just overrides your ability to really process it. So for tracks, to be able to put your data in and get a specific report back, and then to be able to reach out to you through Don't Cook Your Balls and have you, you know, support. And that's so amazing that you have those two combined aids. So that's another tool in our toolbox.
It is a tool in our toolbox.
Thank you so much, hun.
You're welcome. And that's semen analysis
101. I gotta look it up. I want to see pictures. I want to see pictures of them.
Of the sperm? Yeah, they're there. There's pictures. I have a morphology page that shows all the defects.
Okay, so go to Don't Cook Your Balls and see the morphology. I think that's so important because, you know, those ads, your brain on drugs. You know, this is your sperm on smoking.
Sperm on cigarettes.
This is your sperm on drinking. This is your sperm in a jacuzzi. I think we need to put those out.
I should do that. Maybe that'll be my next like social media meme campaign.
Yeah, sperm on cigarettes, and you could have a sperm smoking. Because I know it's so. I'm not disqualifying that because, man, cutting back on caffeine, you know, that's a hard thing. So if you're really, you know, comfortable smoking, then it's a hard thing to give up. But to see the image of what that does, you're a rock star on semen. Love you. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.
Thank you, everybody. Check the link under Sarah's. Check the links under this video, and it'll bring you right to Trex, and it'll bring you right to Don't Cook Your Balls, and to Sarah to help you with understanding your analysis. So thank you so much, everybody.
All right, have a good one.